Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Well, today I'm going to talk about my research, which is about how slow or fast students learn with and without the technology. In this case, we can think about the ICTs and students of a secondary school. In this case, it's about a specific secondary school here in Jalapa. But also there are some contrast between this school and another ones which don't use these technologies and that use these technologies. So I'm gonna read the introduction. Technological tools and learning is gaining field over education. However, schools have not implemented them yet. This research contrasts schools that use these tools and schools that do not. Thus results as possible applications are provided. As I said before, there is a contrast between these schools, and I had some findings, interesting findings. Perhaps some of them are already known. And of course, I based on some researchers that have been previously done. And then I have some more researchers about the structure of this implementation. I mean, not only e-learning, but the necessary tools in schools, because we don't only need internet and electronic devices at home, but also in school. And it's mainly, I've seen the problem. And I found that many schools don't have this structure. In my case, about secondary school, it doesn't have it yet. But however, Siemens 2014 mentions that learning is a continuous process which lasts the whole lifetime, and the technology is changing or rewiring or brain. So practically technology is here and I think will last. Okay. Thanks to this literature review, I found a major focus, okay? And then in the methodology, how did I carry out this research? Well, practically I had two sources. The first one was Google Forms, which was applied to schools which I didn't have the access or direct access. For example, I also take samples of Minatitlan and Acayucan schools, as well as some schools here in Jalapa, not only secondary schools, but high schools and university. So I made a series of quantitative and qualitative surveys. These are mixed. And I measure some, first of all, expectations, let's say, on comments, and also some data that I could quantify about the implementation of the old tools, and if they notice about the structure in their schools, if they have access to internet, to electronic devices, how much time they spend on the web for homework or on the web for leisure. And finally, I made the observation, and either observation mainly in the secondary school, with this escuela secundaria, okay, Mendieta. So it was a complete full observation on how they work, on how the classes are carried out. I spent more than 3 weeks observing these groups, because it was not only one group. Also, it was about 6 groups, different groups in that school, and also in university school and in a private school, which had English classes on Saturdays. Okay. And of course, these were their results. Access to internet from home, 84% of all of the students said that have access to internet from home. About electronic devices, according to my surveys and my questions, interviews, 92% of my students, or the students I interview, have access to electronic devices, for example, cell phones, tablets, computers. And finally, a structure in schools. In the first two results are about home, but what about the schools? Okay, according to their schools, the 82%, 62% of the students told that they have a good structure in schools. What does it mean? They have a projector, they have internet connection, and they have a computer in which they can control the slides, for example. So as we can see, there is a huge difference between the first two numbers and the last one. It is harder to implement these technological tools in the schools, but not in all. Because as you can see, only is about 38% which don't have access or they don't have this structure in schools. The 62% they have it. So we can implement, okay? And then according to the surveys and their interviews, this was the data that I got. Besides that, students are familiarized with the digital media, spending a lot of hours per day for homework or leisure. What does it mean? It means that they are already, even if they don't have access to internet, or some of them don't have electronic devices, or there is not a structure in schools, they can access the media, perhaps of some familiar relative or any other person. The point is that they already know how to use it. So the findings are, it is not difficult for students to use these digital tools, as I mentioned before. Most of them prefer the implementation of e-learning, technological tools, and besides that, technological tools foster teaching and learning and keeps students motivated. Why does it happen? Well, at least in base of what I asked, because of pictures, because it is easier for them to write, easier for them to learn something, which is project, okay, in comparison to just write some boards, which takes more time. And despite the structure of internet and technological tools in the classroom lacks, it is not a dream to think about this strategy. I mean, obviously, not all of the school had this implementation before, but they made an inversion and they had it as a purpose, okay? So it is also that can happen with our case study, which is secondary school. As a conclusion, well, technological tools are gaining field because of their effectiveness when teaching and learning, not only English, but any subjects. The students are able to use them. The contrast is clear. Escuela Secundaria Federal Antolín Mendieta, número 3, which is a school that hasn't implemented these tools, not yet. And many more schools need to implement these technological advances, prioritizing them. This is my conclusion, and I think this research has given me this data, which perhaps I was not, or many people was not aware of it. So I think it's interesting and to look forward the next step, which is the implementation, and to use both technological advances in school and at home, okay? So this is what I found. I hope you have got my ideas, and see you then.